Hi, I'm Kristine, the flute coach with the Michael J. Owens Music Education Fund. To play the flute, we are going to work with just the head joint of the flute. So if you have your flute in front of you, I want you to set it down on a table or a chair and open the case up. Make sure that the buckles are facing the correct way. You'll want to make sure you open the flute the wrong way, it's going to smash on the floor. So you want to make sure your buckles are the right way, and then the flute opens upwards so that everything sits exactly where it wants to be in the flute case. Once you have that safe spot for your instrument, I want you to take the head joint out, and we're going to do some work with the head joint. Once you have your head joint out, you'll see that there are a few parts of the head joint that we need to talk about. We have a lip plate, we have the embouchure hole, we have a crown, and then we have the tenon. When you play the flute, the tenon of the flute is going to face the right side. So make sure you know your right hand from your left hand, and we're going to have the tenon face the right side so that the long part of the lip plate is facing you. So the first thing we have to do to play the flute is we have to find our sweet spot on the embouchure hole. When you play flute, I want you to try to feel that you're covering about 1/2 to 1/3 of the embouchure hole. So, and you'll be covering that with the bottom part of your lips. So when you place the flute on your lip, I'm covering, I think, about 1/2 of my embouchure hole. And that's going to give us the best sound. If we cover too much of the embouchure hole, we're going to have kind of a dead sound. And if we don't cover enough of the embouchure hole, we'll get a really airy sound. So we want to cover about 1/2 to 1/3 of the embouchure hole. Next, we need to make sure our embouchure hole is always facing to the ceiling. This is one of the hardest things to do on the flute. So when we bring the embouchure hole to our lip, sometimes it rolls in and then we can't blow. Sometimes it rolls out, and then of course we can't blow again. So we want to make sure while we're standing up straight, our arms move up and we find that sweet spot with our lips. What I like to do is I like to make sure that this edge of the embouchure hole goes right here on my lip, kind of where my two skins meet, my lip skin and my chin skin. That's where I want this edge to be. When finding the sweet spot of your embouchure, I really recommend feeling where the edge of the embouchure hole meets your lip. Some people might recommend kissing and rolling, which is when you place the embouchure hole right in front of your mouth and then roll it on down. That might work for you, but I find that for most people, when you do that, the embouchure hole is actually too high on your lip. And you can try it and see which one works better. For me, I need to feel it and blow versus I can even hear that one, my pitch is much higher than the other. So at home, do some experimenting and see if you can find that edge rather than kiss and roll. Okay? For some of you, you might find that if your lips, maybe we all have different sized lips, so maybe your lips are a little bigger than mine, you might find that you want the embouchure hole to be just a little higher up, and you're going to have a lot more success finding that sweet spot for you. So I encourage you to look in a mirror and find where exactly that's going to set on your lips. So if it's a tiny bit higher, that's okay. You have to find what works for you. If it's a tiny bit lower, or if it's exactly where I put mine, that's great. But you want to find exactly where that works for you. What we don't want is for it to be right up here. That's too high. So if you start seeing the inside of your lip when you play, that's not good. That's not where we want it. Then your upper lip won't be able to do any work. Once you are able to find that sweet spot, I want you to practice bringing the head joint to you without doing what I call the turtle. The turtle is this. When we bring the head joint to us, we want to make sure it's only our arms that move and we find that sweet spot. So practice with me by holding your head nice and still, feel where the embouchure hole is going to be, and raise your arms and find that sweet spot. You might, once you get up to your lips, have to wiggle around just a little bit to find it. That's okay. Find it, blow, and then bring it back down again. Let's do that 3 times. So we lift our arms, find that spot, blow. Again, make sure your neck is not moving. And one more time. So if you can do that, awesome. Then we can move on to the next challenge of the flute, which is creating low sounds and creating high sounds with our head joint. So to create low sounds with your head joint, you want to use very soft air, like you're blowing a spoonful of hot soup and you don't want it to spill off the spoon. When I am playing low sounds, I'm using soft air. I'm thinking, just like that. So if you can do that, try using your tongue to start one of those notes. I'm going to use the syllable to, hit my tongue above my two front teeth and start that articulation. If you're finding that you're only getting super high sounds like that, you might be holding the embouchure hole too high on your lip, or you might be using air that is too fast right now for the flute. So first I want you to find this really low air. Make sure you're covering the end with your hand, otherwise we get this not very pleasant sound. So we have our low sound, we found our sweet spot. Let's blow softly and use our tongue to start. How long does your air last when you do that? Can you do that for 4 seconds? Let's do 2 more of those. If you can do that successfully, I want you to now try to play high notes on your head joint. To play high notes on the head joint, we are going to use faster air, like you're blowing out some birthday candles, and we're going to push our lips forward just a little bit so that the hole that we're creating with our lips becomes a little bit smaller. I'm going to exaggerate what I do so that you can see. When I really play, my lips don't go quite so far forward, but I really want to make sure you see what's happening with your lips. So bring my head joint up, and I'm going to make a high sound. So I really push my lips forward like I'm saying ooh. Can you make some more of those sounds? Like you're really trying to annoy your little brother next door. So then the next thing we have to do is we have to go from high sounds to low sounds or low sounds to high sounds. So I like to hold a low note for 2 counts and then move up to a high note for 2 counts. Let's try that again. I know that's hard. Was it good? 1 more. Okay, if you can do that, that's probably enough practice for today. You should be feeling really dizzy because the flute uses the most air of all the woodwind instruments, and if you're using your air properly, you should feel pretty dizzy by now. So I suggest taking a break, cleaning your flute, and putting it away. Speaking of cleaning the flute, let's talk about how to clean the instrument and store it so that it's ready to go for your next practice session. What you need to clean your instrument is a cleaning stick and cleaning cloth. If your instrument did not come with a cleaning cloth, you can use a handkerchief, you can use an old t-shirt that you cut up into about the size of a handkerchief, or you can go to the music store and buy one. So we have our cleaning stick and we have our cleaning cloth, like a big needle and thread. Thread the needle, pull it through, wrap the top of the needle with some of the cleaning cloth, but make sure you don't bunch it all up at the top or it's never going to get in. It's going to get stuck. So just a little bit at the top, and then stick that in your head joint, twist it around just a few times, and ta-da, it's clean. Then you put that away, back in its case. You'll notice that there should be a little slot for the lip plate. Make sure it sits in there the correct way. If you put it in the wrong way, it's not going to harm the flute, but it has a spot, so it should probably go in that spot. Then close the flute and store it safely, maybe in the corner of your room or under your bed, somewhere where you're not going to lose it or forget about it.